Oh, it is a beautiful day to hop in a real money fantasy football draft. Here we're going to be picking at the 109. I will say I'm a little bit worried. Of course, what you hope to see when you hop in these drafts on Underdog is you hope to see that you're the only experienced badge drafter in there. Now, we have one other guy. We'll see what Pluto Jack's able to do at pick 2. But before we get into it, please go down there, drop a like, leave a comment letting me know how smart and unbelievable of a drafter I am. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you're playing fantasy football and you're not on Underdog Fantasy, you're not living life. You need to fix that life ASAP. Go have some fun. Go get in some real money fantasy football drafts today on Underdog Fantasy. And when you sign up and use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's free for you essentially to sign up. And with a $10 deposit, you get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Literally, link in the description, promo code FLOCK. Couldn't be a better deal. Have some fun in some drafts. Get in drafts with us on the stream. And let's see JT off the board at pick 1. No big surprise. Like, what am I supposed to say? Oh my God, Jonathan Taylor off the board. Do you need any analysis with Jonathan Taylor? He's a running back going to year 3. I mean, at Wisconsin, 2,000 yards, 2,000 yards, 2,000 yards. Goes to the NFL. Freaking crushes it. There's nothing to say. Let's move on. Cup, CMC, Jefferson, Chase. Very boring start to these drafts. I mean, that's exactly what you should have through the first 5. You can make the argument that Cup, McCaffrey could be switched. Some people would make the argument McCaffrey should go all the way up to 1. I'm not putting him there, but some people will. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, they have to be top 5 picks based on what we saw with their rookie seasons and second year in the case of Justin Jefferson and the passing efficiency of Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow. No reason to take a running back that has red flags like an Austin Eckler. I know not too many red flags, but you could easily see some regression with his touchdowns this upcoming season. And he is playing alongside the best running back that he has had in Los Angeles since Melvin Gordon left with Isaiah Spiller. There are just small red flags in that department where Jefferson, Chase have none. And you got to be kidding me, right? You're going to let us start off with Stefon Diggs at 9? You have to be kidding me. Oh, we are going to get a beautiful team here. Being able to start with Stefon Diggs at 9, setting ourselves up with the ability to take some running back value later on. Maybe we are able to pull Josh Allen in the 3rd like we did in the draft yesterday. I think taking a wide receiver round 1 whenever there are such strong running backs in rounds 2 and round 3 and even round 4 in yesterday's draft. We started Stefon Diggs in round 1, and I had James Conner making it back to us at pick 41. Love getting Stefon Diggs here. I think he could be the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy this year with the departure of Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley. But after that, we have Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, pick 10 and 11. Mixon at 13. What we are desperately hoping for now. Never mind, Kelsey's off. I was going to say, if we somehow got Diggs and Kelsey on the same team, I would legitimately lose my mind. I would. But let's see what this team does here. Okay. We may have to take DeAndre Swift now. Let's give you that explanation. Aaron Jones is off the board. Okay. With Aaron Jones off the board, here I think the pick's DeAndre Swift. Now, no, I am not going with every other person in the fantasy football community, and I am not screaming that now DeAndre Swift at the 1-2 turn is going to be a league-winning running back for you. Now, of course, I love DeAndre Swift, the talent. Last year, he was one of my most drafted running backs in fantasy. Our most common start to drafts last year was either Devontae Adams or Travis Kelce round 1, following it up with Joe Mixon round 2, DeAndre Swift round 3. Loved DeAndre Swift last year in Detroit. We were looking at him as a running back that was going to get every high-value touch out of the backfield, every target out of the backfield, as well as every touch in the red zone, which is exactly what we are looking for. Now he's the same exact running back that he was a year ago. However, people are screaming that he's a league winner at the beginning of the second when they were trying to tell us that we are stupid for drafting him in the middle of the 3rd because Jamal Williams. Like, I'm not drafting DeAndre Swift that often because usually you are seeing DeAndre Swift go up pick 13, pick 14, and he goes before Aaron Jones. But here, pick 16, I am going to be fine with it. If this wasn't one of those best ball tournaments where so much of your expected value is based on your weeks 15, 16, and 17 and your playoff performance, I would go ahead and take Mike Evans. Like, if we can make trades in this league throughout the course of the season, if Chris Godwin were to miss the beginning portion of the year, hell, Mike Evans could be the wide receiver 1 overall during that time. And I think you could actually look to sell Mike Evans high, say in week 3, week 4, week 5. But we can't make trades in this league. This is going to be a best ball format. That's why I'm able to do 500 underdog drafts this offseason, because we don't have to worry about making trades throughout the year. We don't have to worry about working the waiver wire. That's why it's perfect for you to go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Deposit $10, get our draft guide, go hop in a couple of these $5 best ball drafts, and they're no time commitment at all during the season. So what you're going to be able to do is perfect your draft strategy, be a much better drafter than anybody else in your regular home league, and be able to crush them when your draft comes around and still be able to focus in on your main starting lineup as well as your waivers during the year. But now, looks like Pluto Jack, the other experienced drafter, going a very wide receiver heavy. He goes ahead and he takes A.J. Brown and Michael Pittman Jr. both over Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams definitely has a higher ADP than both of those receivers. And one thing that's worth pointing out is the fact that it's common to see teams there at the turn pass on those running backs to double tap the wide receiver position when they started with Taylor or when they started with Christian McCaffrey. Where usually a team that takes Cooper Kupp there at the beginning of the first round, they're fine grabbing one of those running backs at a value at that 2-3 turn, whether that's Javonte Williams or Nick Chubb. But let's see what falls to us. Hollywood Brown's off. Okay, so it looks like we are going to have a shot at Josh Allen. Ooh, sorry. We need to queue up Allen first. This is the order that we are looking in. I mean, if you look at my rankings, yeah, we're going to have DJ Moore ahead of Mike Williams, but Mike Williams never really makes it to 309. If he were to, we'd have to go ahead and take him. We are going to have back-to-back drafts. We had a draft yesterday where we were able to go ahead. We were able to pair up Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen together. Now we are getting that same thing, but instead of grabbing Aaron Jones in the second round, we're grabbing DeAndre Swift. So it's a very similar start. I'm very excited about this start. Sadly, not like the draft yesterday. It looks like we're not going to be able to get James Conner there in the 4th round, which, of course, if we could have added James Conner to the 4th round here, that would have been freaky considering what happened in yesterday's draft. But let's move this down. Pick 40. Y'all know, guys, that I'm not too interested in Courtland Sutton. These are going to be the players that are on the board for me. Not interested in Gabriel Davis either. Sutton and Gabriel Davis are 2 wide receivers that I'm sorry, I'm not drafting at the 3-4 turn. I'm not drafting Sutton in the 3rd. I'm not drafting Gabriel Davis at the beginning of the 4th. I don't know who is. I don't know who is doing that. Now, Terry McLaurin goes at pick 36. To be honest, I would rather have Etienne. I'd rather have Jalen Waddle. Like in the majority of these drafts, I'm drafting Travis Etienne way more frequently than I'm actually drafting DeAndre Swift, because I think that Travis Etienne is essentially the same player that we were drafting with DeAndre Swift last year. He's that running back that's going to get every target out of the backfield, every touch in the red zone, and you're getting him where DeAndre Swift went last year, where we were so excited to draft DeAndre Swift. So now we are going to be excited to take our guy in Jalen Waddle. I almost don't even want to bring it up because we do this every single time we draft Jalen Waddle. We talk about this all the time. But if you go and look at how impressive Waddle's season truly was. Now, I understand, yes, the situation's getting worse with Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle was so damn good. And I feel like people are not giving him his fair credit because Jamar Chase was even better. Yes, he was in the same rookie class as Jamar Chase. Sucks for him that everybody's going to be comparing him to Chase, and he can't compare to Chase because Jamar Chase, one of, if not the best rookie wide receiver seasons of all time. But if we look at wide receivers that average 7.7 targets per game and 63 receiving yards per game their rookie season, Odell, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Julio Jones, AJ Green. Julio Jones and AJ Green, don't know if you've heard about those guys, but they were pretty damn good back in their day. You have Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, and Jalen Waddle. Like, Jalen Waddle is a freak. I understand he has bad quarterback play. He had it last year. He had it at Alabama if you're considering Tua Tagovailoa as a bad NFL quarterback. And the real concern is you are getting Tyreek Hill traded to Miami, which, yes, will lower his target share. But Jalen Waddle last season was what? The wide receiver 13 as a rookie on a per game basis. We're drafting Jalen Waddle here as a mid wide receiver 2. So you expect your rookies to get better. Jalen Waddle, we're drafting him with the expectation that he gets worse And I still think he can return value on this pick. Now, Rashad Bateman goes at pick 48. Good. I get these, I don't want to say no upside wide receivers off the board, but I just don't see how Bateman turns into a league winner. Like, I understand, yes, he was a great prospect coming out of school, but if we're just being realistic with the amount of passing volume that's going to be in Baltimore and what we have seen in terms of the freak Mark Andrews, not only with his efficiency, but also with his target share over the past 3 seasons, not going to be a big fan of Bateman. And dear God, can you believe people are drafting Dalton Schultz over Justin Herbert, over Patrick Mahomes, over Lamar Jackson? I wouldn't even draft him over David Montgomery. I'm sorry. I just will simply never be drafting, never in a million years, be drafting Dalton Schultz here, despite him being in the best situation you could ever ask for from a tight end. Now we have Jerry Jeudy going pick 52. No, we're not doing it. I was going to say, if Mahomes or Lamar were to make it to us, do we take them? I don't think we can. Of course, it would be exciting. We'd mix it up a little bit, but I don't think we can. Now, if Lamar were to make it to us in the 6th round, hell yeah, we take Lamar Jackson there. But in the order we are looking at, Brandon Cooks is off. No, Mason, do not take Lamar. Don't do it. Do not do it. Please give me Montgomery. That's the guy that I like in this range. These wide receivers are just... Oh, dear God. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? We're going to go ahead. We're going to reach on Dobbins. I'm sorry to say it, but I don't see the same range of outcomes with the wide receiver position here compared to what we have at running back. I understand, historically speaking, this is the running back dead zone. But we recently made a video. Don't know if it's out yet. If it's not, it'll be out any day now. Looking back historically at the running backs that used to go in the running back dead zone, comparing it to the running back profiles that we have this year in that same zone with the Breece Hall, with the Cam Akers, with the Travis Etienne, with the J.K. Dobbins, with the David Montgomery. And long story short, I do not view this as a typical year in fantasy football. I think this is completely different compared to what we've historically seen with running backs in this range, where I have always been a fan of grabbing receivers in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But at this point, people are now onto it. Like, it's now, I hate to say it, but when something becomes mainstream like that in fantasy football, usually the strategy's dead. Like, back a long time ago, these smart NFL teams were going after those quarterbacks on a rookie deal and trying to compete with those quarterbacks on a rookie deal. Think of Russell Wilson. Like, back then, it was sharp to do. But at this point, now it's mainstream. Everybody tries to do it, and it's hard to see if the same edge is there. Now, of course, there's still an edge. It's still a fine strategy, but not the same of what there once was. Now, after we take Dobbins, we have some more wide receivers. We have some more running backs off the board. Give us Darnell, please. Give us Darnell, maybe. I don't even know what else we would do. Buck Marley decided to go Josh Jacobs in the last round. They are going all in on the Las Vegas Raiders offense. They have Jacobs, Devontae Adams, and Darren Waller. Be hilarious to see him reach on Derek Carr here. Let's see what they do. Hopefully they don't take Darnell. They go Elijah Mitchell. So we are going to go ahead. We are going to grab Darnell Mooney as our wide receiver 3. Darnell Mooney, of course, is going to deal with some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL this year. Is going to be in a horrendous offense that does not have a good coaching staff, that does not have a good offensive line. However, Darnell Mooney in year 2 did just fine in that situation. Like, what's so funny is people want to look at Allen Robinson and go, you know what? Let's take Allen Robinson's 2022 or 2021. Let's take that season, throw it in the trash, and act like it never happened. But if we look at Darnell Mooney in that same situation, Darnell Mooney found success. Darnell Mooney, 1.8 yards per route run compared to Allen Robinson at 1.2. Darnell Mooney, a 26% team target share almost compared to Allen Robinson at 17%. Darnell Mooney, 92 air yards per game compared to Allen Robinson at 74. So yes, it's a very bad situation in Chicago, but now there are even more targets available with no Allen Robinson here this upcoming season. So if Darnell Mooney was playing with an efficient quarterback, if Darnell Mooney was in Green Bay, please, I would love to hear your opinion of this. Go to the comment section. If Darnell Mooney was in Green Bay, realistically, where does he go in fantasy drafts? Would Darnell Mooney be going next to DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin? Would he be a late third round pick, early fourth? That's where I assume he'd be. So yes, it's a horrible situation, but drafters know that, and that's why he's falling this far. Okay, good thing for us. We are getting some of these quarterbacks finally off the board. You have Kyler Murray going pick 67 to the team that took Hollywood at 30. You have Jalen Hurts going at 69. Dear God, you have to be so damn excited about getting Jalen Hurts that late. I do think that Jalen Hurts does have the possibility this season to break fantasy football. And I will be the first person to admit, if you look at this cluster of quarterbacks here, going pick 51 through 69, these 5 guys, I do not think there's as large of a gap between those 5 players and Josh Allen as the cost would indicate with where we took Allen. It is what it is, though. We took Stephon Diggs in round 1. We told ourselves if Josh Allen was available there in round 3, we were going to go ahead and we were going to have to draft him. But dear God, looking at that round 5, round 6 quarterback value, you don't love Wilson at pick 72, but looking at those 5 guys in that range, that's just beautiful. Now, Antonio Gibson does indeed go off the board at 76. I don't think at this point we're like dying to have a wide receiver fall to us. Now, of course, it would still be ideal. I mean, I would love London. I'm not taking Allen Lazard here. I'd prefer Michael Thomas over Allen Lazard. It's crazy that, like, just think about it. Like, I understand, guys. We want to be putting every situation under the microscope. We want to be trying to measure every variable. We want to be trying to figure out everything and look at every tiny small detail that sometimes we get so hyper-focused in, we lose sight of the entire picture. Let's just say this out loud. So hopefully you can see how crazy it sounds. At least I think it sounds crazy. Let me compose myself and do this. Allen Lazard. I'm going to do it again. Allen Lazard. Let me try a third time. Let's try a third time. Allen Lazard is being drafted before Michael Thomas in fantasy football. Allen Lazard is being drafted before Drake London in fantasy football. Allen Lazard is being drafted before Tom Brady in fantasy football. Allen Lazard is being drafted before the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs in fantasy football. Now, I understand a lot of people are going to tell me, but Mason, Allen Lazard's great. He should be drafted here at pick 79. He can be the wide receiver 1 for Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay Packers. Are we sure he's great? Because if I go over and look at Allen Lazard over the past 3 years, this is a wide receiver that hasn't been fantastic. Last year, 1.4 yards per route run. Now, of course, that number is going to come up with no Devontae Adams. But still, an 11.5% team target share. I think some people are getting more excited because he scored touchdowns, but that's the most volatile thing you're going to find in fantasy football. His touchdown rate was at 13%. I'll bet any amount of money in the world that if he has, say, 80, 90 targets this year, that his touchdown rate's not 13%. Like, dear God, I personally can't support that. I can't get behind that. But what I could get behind is potentially Hawkinson here. Now, let's think through this out loud. I'm also not taking Tony Pollard over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't care that Tony Pollard's a massive value at his ADP where we're drafting. I'm not drafting Tony Pollard in this range. If Zeke goes down, Tony Pollard becomes a league winner. Sucks for me. I'm going to lose out on some money. But between these two guys in Clyde Edwards-Helaire and TJ Hawkinson, I do think we have an internal debate in a lot of these drafts. I'm going to use the tiebreaker in the fact that we have DeAndre Swift so we can get that correlation with the Detroit Lions here. And I think if we were to draft, say, Jared Goff at the very end to get that double stack between DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson, we only have to draft 2 quarterbacks whenever we have Josh Allen. Possibly if we grab another respectable tight end coming soon to pair up with TJ Hawkinson, we only have to draft 2 tight ends as well. So yeah, so far, I actually really like this team. I like this team a lot more than I was expecting to halfway through this draft. We have Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, Darnell Mooney, Drake London at wide receiver. At running back, we have DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins. Quarterback, we have the elite level guy in Josh Allen. And we have a respectable tight end in TJ Hawkinson. I understand if you look at Hawkinson's efficiency numbers through the beginning portion of his career, they haven't been great. He doesn't look like he's Mark Andrews. But at the same time, he was an elite level prospect coming into the NFL. I know that Kyle Pitts blows him out of the water, but outside of that, he's one of the best tight end prospects we've seen in a very long time. Goes inside the top 10 picks, incredibly young. And we know it takes time for these tight ends to break out. If we look up how old TJ Hawkinson is, the man just turned 25 this offseason. Last year, he played at 24 years old. Let's compare this to Pat Frymuth. Pat Frymuth, his rookie season, played at 23. Pat Frymuth is like a year and a half younger than Hawkinson. Like, Hawkinson's a freaking beast. Now, after we take Hawkinson, you do have Clyde Edwards-Helaire off 89. Tony Pollard falls all the way down to 92. Definitely a value on Pollard's ADP. I think this is about closer to where he should be going in drafts. I'm just going to be a fan of grabbing Alexander Mattison later every time we can than Tony Pollard earlier on. I understand Pollard will see touches on a week-to-week basis, even with the healthy Ezekiel Elliott. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think that we can look at that situation and say that he's going to have too many spike weeks given the role of Ezekiel Elliott. And now here, the same thing we did in the draft yesterday, I honestly may feel comfortable to do. I think I may pass on Dawson Knox here, even though we have Allen, and any smart drafter in the world would tell you, grab Dawson Knox. He goes anyway, so we didn't have to think about it. I was going to say we were going to see who fell between James Cook or Dawson Knox and get that player as our second option to pair up with Allen and Stephon Diggs. But we're going to take Tyler Lockett here. I already gave the spiel in yesterday's live stream. I'll do it really quick, really quick in case you were not able to find the draft from yesterday. But if we go ahead, if we pull up the yards per route run for Tyler Lockett, you are going to be looking at Tyler Lockett as a wide receiver that, despite being in one of the worst offenses in the NFL last year, was still elite. 2.5 yards per route run. The only other wide receivers to be as high as this: Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase. Let me repeat that. From a yards per route run standpoint, going from the lowest to the highest. Last year, okay? This is last year when the Seattle Seahawks were very bad. Tyler Lockett, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp. Okay, let's throw that out there. I will admit, horrible situation, but very similar to Darnell Mooney. That's why he's going this late. I mean, hell, if Russell Wilson was there, we saw Tyler Lockett going in the 4th round last year. We want to be getting him in the 9th. Now, Zach Ertz goes pick 108. Kenneth Walker off the board as well. So it looks like someone else is willing to go through and grab a nasty, and I repeat, just a nasty piece of this Seattle Seahawks offense. Okay. I am honestly kind of fine with Boyd. I know some people would say that Boyd's a nice bring back in week 17. I don't necessarily care too much about that. I really like James Cook here as well. James Cook is one of my most drafted players. I really like the idea of pairing him up with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs when James Cook does profile to be a great pass-catching running back. You know what? I'd probably take James Cook over Tyler Boyd. We have 5 wide receivers. Our wide receiver core is very good. We have Diggs, Jalen Waddle, Darnell Mooney, Drake London, and Tyler Lockett. And you know what's nice too? We can kind of sit here and hope that we have Jared Goff available to us at a nice ADP later on. But even if that weren't to happen, we could still, say, grab Marcus Mariota and have some correlation there with Drake London in the last round, just as a worst case scenario. But looks like James Cook goes, so sadly we are not going to get James Cook. We will go ahead. We will take Tyler Boyd here. I'm going to be just fine with Tyler Boyd. I think if you look at some of the other running backs that are going to make it back to us, it is very exciting. I've talked about this in a video, but I view Tyler Boyd, I don't want to say as a wide receiver handcuff, but a wide receiver that's being drafted for his projected volume this upcoming season. And there could very easily be something to change that projected volume with either an injury to Jamar Chase, an injury to T. Higgins, where all of a sudden you have Tyler Boyd as a league-winning wide receiver. Now, what I would say is a wide receiver that fits a very similar mold, in my opinion, is going to be the 3rd receiver in one of the better passing offenses in the NFL, but not going to be the first option in his offense, not going to be the second option in his offense. It's Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow goes to pick 75 in this draft. If we're talking a range of outcomes perspective, how big is the gap between Tyler Boyd and Hunter Renfrow? I have it maybe that big, maybe. But we're going to go Tyler Boyd at 112. After that, run on wide receivers, which is, of course, what you want to see whenever we take Boyd and Lockett here at the turn. I mean, I think that we should probably be on the lookout as well for Justin Fields on the way back around. Now, of course, I'm not going to just auto pick Justin Fields at 129 if he's there, but he's in play because with Justin Fields, he would have a decent amount of rushing upside to potentially get there with some random spike weeks if he can go, say, rush for 60 yards in a game and pick up a rushing touchdown as well. And also we have Darnell Mooney. So I haven't been drafting Justin Fields that often, but based on his rushing yards, even though y'all know I have been a long-time Justin Fields hater, I may have to go ahead and I may have to draft him in some of these. Yeah, I've battled the Justin Fields truthers for God knows how long because I loved our guy Trey Lance. And remember, last offseason, there were people telling you that Justin Fields, everybody was telling you, dynasty rookie drafts had Justin Fields going before Trey Lance. Let me remind you that. Now, after this, I'm not dying to get Irv Smith Jr. So this is just a portion of drafts that I feel like we're a little bit stuck in. I would love to see Mecole Hardman off the board. I'd love to see Jarvis off the board. We could get Tua Tagovailoa as well, say pick 136. I wouldn't be dying to get Tua, even though he would correlate with Jalen Waddle. I would prefer to grab Fields at an ADP value if he is one, given the fact that he does have that rushing upside that we talked about. Okay. Ronald Jones off the board. I would have loved Rojo on this team as a third RB, as someone that would have a weekly role in one of the better offenses in the NFL. But outside of that, let's think through this. Okay, let's cue this up. I'm not taking Irv Smith Jr. here. Sorry to say it, but I don't think we can. Outside of Justin Fields, I don't even know who else we'd want. I guess the pick is Justin Fields if he makes it to us. Like we said, we were setting up that Detroit correlation to get Jared Goff a little bit later on. But I'm not dying to take Mecole Hardman when we don't have Mahomes. Cole Kmet off the board. I'm not dying for Irv Smith Jr., not dying for Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth off. Okay. Let's think through this. The issue is, with TJ Hawkinson, if we take Irv Smith Jr. here, would we only have to draft 2 tight ends in this league? Or would we still have to get a third? Whereas if we pass on Irv Smith Jr., I feel like we are going to have to... No, let's not talk. Let's stop. Stop, Mason. Let's get Justin Fields. Pick 129. Let's get a quarterback that has access to some real upside. Now, of course, we are done at the QB position. I think the pick was definitely between Fields and Irv Smith Jr. My initial thought was we were going to be going with the running back, but Ronald Jones, Isaiah Spiller, Rashad White, Alexander Madison, all those guys go off the board, and all of a sudden the running back room is looking pretty thin. So I guess we go Justin Fields. We get that stack up with Darnell Mooney, and we still have the correlation with the Detroit Lions in the combination of TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. I guess we just don't have to get Jared Goff. And we're definitely not getting Jared Goff when we go through and when we draft Josh Allen in the 3rd and Justin Fields here in the 11th. But now beyond this, Tua Tagovailoa is no longer in play. What we could have done is we could have taken Irv Smith Jr., drafted Jameson Williams to pick 136, and then gotten Jared Goff and really went all in on that Detroit Lions offense. Would have been a possibility. What we do instead here is I think we're probably going to go ahead. We're going to take Jamison Crowder because in this draft, we did not get that second Buffalo Bills pass catcher like we did in the one yesterday, where yesterday we ended up having James Cook to pair up with Josh Allen. And I'm fine with this Jamison Crowder value as well as the wide receiver 63. Now, he's off the board. We're not going to get Jamison Crowder. It is what it is. Jameis Winston goes perfect for us. We're not dying for Winston. Do we just go ahead and take Dameon Pierce? What other running backs are going to be available to us later on? We could be looking at Tyrion Davis-Price, Kenneth Gainwell. The issue is we're probably going to have to take a decent amount of these RBs regardless. If we were to take Jameson Williams or Jahan Dotson, the wide receivers are passing up on are Chark and Marvin Jones. Let's go ahead. Let's take Jameson Williams here. What I like about taking Jameson Williams, I would not do this in a regular fantasy football league. Please, please, please hear me out. I'm not doing this in a regular fantasy football league. However, in a best ball tournament setup where weeks 15, 16, and 17 are going to matter so damn much, even if Jameson Williams were to miss the beginning portion of the season, which I expect him to, he can still be a very solid pick in that if he were to come back by the end of the year, and if we were to get a spike week in weeks 15, 16, or 17, then all of a sudden, I think we could be sitting pretty just with a team that maybe stands out from the crowd, that not too many people are going to have Jameson Williams. And also, we don't have to submit our starting lineup, which of course is nice with a field stretching wide receiver like Williams. We are already betting in on that Detroit Lions offense with DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson. So I guess we're going to go all in on the Lions. Now that we make this pick at 136, I do think that we made the mistake in taking Justin Fields over Irv Smith Jr. I think it would have been much better to go Irv Smith Jr. at pick 129 and then just decide to grab Jared Goff later. You live and you learn. You live and you learn. We're like almost 400 drafts in at this point. We're still making mistakes, but hopefully those mistakes will be minimal by the time we start firing up those high stakes $250 drafts. So Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence off the board. Thank you. Please take these guys. Get Tua off. Get Trevor Lawrence off. Please get some more QBs off as well. We do not want to see these guys sticking around, lingering on, and possibly being back when we're on the clock, just wrecking, and I repeat, wrecking our dreams of finding some running back value because we only have Swift and Dobbins. I thought that this draft room was actually going to set us up to draft maybe too many running backs because if we revisit what they were doing at the beginning of the draft, like these teams were just slamming receivers early. I mean, we were about to be on the clock at pick 57. Montgomery was going to be available there. You had Travis Etienne making it to pick 38. I mean, you're looking at Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 89, Tony Pollard, 92. You had a lot of running backs falling past their ADP, but I guess we just never really were in a position to grab one of these guys that we felt comfortable with at their value. Okay, well, let's move this down. Dameon Pierce goes pick 144. Pretty good for us to see Pierce off the board. Actually, never mind. That's probably pretty bad for us because if Pierce is off the board, that means just it's going to be the next running back up for people to take. Now, what probably ends up happening is we're going to go ahead. We're going to take a tight end. Now, the reason we pass on Irv Smith Jr. is, in my opinion, there's not a massive gap between these tight ends in this tier compared to what we just saw. So if we get an Alberto, if we get a Robert Tonyan, if we get a Hunter Henry, I think we could still get away with only drafting 2 tight ends. Now we'll take a third if a massive value falls to us. Van Jefferson off the board. Please take these last 2 wide receivers. Get Robbie Anderson off. Get DJ Chark off. Give us some running back value. Take Matt Ryan. Take Daniel Jones. Kenneth Gainwell goes. At this point, I think Michael Carter Jr. is going to be the best player if he is available to us. Then Alberto. Then after that, probably still the tight ends with Robert Tonyan, Hunter Henry, Tyrion Davis-Price before Gerald Everett. Yeah, let's set ourselves up with this. What would be ideal is we get Michael Carter Jr. If we can somehow sneak him by these next 3 teams, we get him, and then I think we are almost guaranteed to have one of the other tight ends making it back to us. So please, come on, my man. Robbie Anderson, you know you need him. Take Robbie. Take Robbie Anderson. Your wide receiver 3 on this team is Robert Woods. Your wide receiver 4 is Michael Gallup. Your wide receiver 5 is Joshua Palmer. You want Robbie Anderson. He goes Robbie Anderson, hell yes. Now, let's see if we can convince this team through the computer screen. They go Albert O. 1 pick. You already have Henry. You already have Montgomery. You already have A.J. Dillon. You already have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Why are you needing Michael Carter Jr. here? You don't need Michael Carter Jr. You only have Burrow at quarterback. Let's see you fire up a Matt Ryan pick. Let's see a Daniel Jones selection. You have Kenny Golladay. Take Daniel Jones. You have Kenny Golladay. Take Daniel. Come on, please. I wish we could send audio messages in the chat, have some kind of Skype call when you're in these draft rooms. But thank God we are going to get Michael Carter Jr. falling to us. 8 picks past his ADP. I'm going to be very excited about the Michael Carter Jr. pick because I do think this is a running back that has a role in New York at the very beginning of the season. Now, yes, I do expect Breece Hall to eventually work his way into being that 3-down bell cow running back. But even when that happens, Michael Carter Jr. all of a sudden does slide into being a primary handcuff RB for the New York Jets. So, as a good pass catcher, I am very, very happy to take Michael Carter Jr. at pick 153. Okay, Matt Ryan, 156. Robert Tonyan, are we going to get Hunter Henry on the way back around? Okay, these teams that are about to be on the clock, 6, 5, and 4 wide receivers. This team takes Noah Fant. Okay, this team has 5 wide receivers. Now, yes, you have very good receivers with CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Thomas. But still, come on, grab DJ Chark. And this other team takes their 3rd tight end with Robert Tonyan. They have Darren Waller and Irv Smith Jr. as well. What are you doing taking Tonyan there? Okay, DJ Chark off the board. Okay, good. We are going to get one of these guys. I definitely prefer Henry over Gerald Everett. And I doubt he goes tight end. Unless he's trolling or maybe he's on auto and I haven't noticed. He reached on KJ Osborne according to ADP. So he wasn't on auto back at pick 135. But looks like maybe his last 2 picks were auto. Okay, no, good. We are going to go ahead. We are going to get Hunter Henry, 11 picks past his ADP as our second tight end here. I think with the combination of Hawkinson and Henry, it is not ideal to stop at 2 tight ends. We definitely want to see if we can get a third. I think our wide receivers core is so damn strong that we're not dying to grab too many more receivers. We have Diggs, Waddle, Darnell, London, Lockett, Boyd, Jameson Williams. Now we're probably going to want 3 more running backs. I want to get to 6 RBs on this team. I know a lot of smart people would say, no, this team's strong enough at running back where we can go ahead. We can decide to just take 2 more, grab an extra tight end, grab an extra wide receiver. We'll look at what value falls. Let's stay flexible. Let's not get into a rigid mindset. If there's a massive value at receiver, hell, we'll add another wide receiver. We'll only go with 5 RBs. If we can't find another tight end we like, maybe we stop at 2. I think we have set ourselves up with a flexible roster. Now, Nico Collins goes 165. Gerald Everett off the board. If Everett would have made it back, we would have taken Gerald Everett. That would have been a no-brainer. I would also take Tyler Higbee, David Njoku if they make it back. The running backs that I'm interested in this range, James Robinson, Jamal Williams, Marlon Mack. I am not a big Mark Ingram fan. Like, in a tournament-style draft where weeks 15, 16, and 17 are everything, how the hell is Mark Ingram ever a league winner? Realistic. How old is Mark Ingram at this point? Mark Ingram going to be 33 years old by the time we get to weeks 15, 16, and 17. And if we look at active career touches, let's look at regular season first. Regular season, Mark Ingram has had a whopping 2,042 touches. You look at the playoffs as well. Mark Ingram's had 81. Mark Ingram's only had 81 touches in the playoffs. I figured Mark Ingram had more playoff experience than that. But still, the man's had 2,100 touches through his NFL career. About to be pushing 33. I don't see access to a real ceiling there. Okay, so both tight ends are off the board with Higbee and David Njoku. Tyler Higbee may be one of the best values in drafts at this moment. Mac Jones off the board at 170. Fine with us. We're looking at these running backs regardless. And I like Cameron Brate's price point. I mean, every report about Gronk is he's done. Now, I know, trust me, I get it. Cameron Brate's not a good tight end. I don't want to sit here and pretend like Cameron Brate has any talent whatsoever, but you may not have to have talent to score points with Tom Brady. Not when Chris Godwin can miss the beginning portion of the season. Not when Antonio Brown's gone. Not when Rob Gronkowski's gone. Antonio Brown and Gronk led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in yards per route run last year. I have found myself drafting a decent amount of George Pickens here at the end of the 15th. Let me see how much George Pickens I have. I'm not going to draft him. I definitely think we need a running back over Pickens, but I am just interested. How much George Pickens do I have? I have Pickens in 12% of drafts. Okay. So we are slightly overweight Pickens. Now, Bag Lasco goes George Pickens 174. Was that an auto pick? No, I don't think so, because they decided to reach on Paris Campbell the round before. They take Paris Campbell at pick 163 when he has an ADP of 175. Now, if we're looking at these running backs in terms of correlation, I think at some point we probably shouldn't be taking any more Detroit Lions when we have Swift, when we have Hawkinson, when we have Jameson Williams. Like, I think it would be very hard to imagine how Jamal Williams also is a good pick here if all those other guys hit, without Jared Goff being a top 5 quarterback in the NFL in passing yards. And if Jared Goff is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL in passing yards, for you to have the winning team here when Jared Goff is going as late as he is, you probably have to go ahead. You probably have to draft Jared Goff, which of course we're not whenever we have the combination of Justin Fields as well as Josh Allen. But let's revisit what we did with that Justin Fields pick of 129. That's going to haunt me the rest of this draft. Probably haunt me the rest of this day. So if we were to take Irv Smith Jr., we could simply just be drafting Jared Goff at pick 184. We would have taken Irv Smith Jr. at pick 129, pick 160 instead of Hunter Henry. We could have ended up, there are no real running backs that are too exciting there. I guess maybe based on the price point that we ended up getting on Hunter Henry, it's not the worst idea in the world to just take Justin Fields and pass on Irv Smith. But Let's figure this out. I'm going to prefer Marlon Mack over Jamal Williams. Like I said, I think we already have too many Detroit players. And if we were to have Marlon Mack off the board, I think we probably just go ahead and take Hayden Hurst. With Hayden Hurst, he'll be a fine value as a third tight end. Maybe you can make the argument, oh, we're getting week 17 correlation in here. We have Tyler Boyd as well on this team. Let's bet on that Cincinnati Bengals offense. So let's take Hayden Hurst here. I guess we'll be committing ourselves to only drafting 7 wide receivers with this team, but I think our 3 tight ends can cycle someone through the flex spot with Hawkinson, Hunter Henry, and Hayden Hurst. And the running backs in this range, Jamal Williams is my favorite, but I think based on our roster construction, it doesn't make sense to take Jamal Williams here. Now, if he makes it to us in the 17th, sure, we'll take him because who else are we going to grab? But at this point, unless we see something crazy, we're probably just going to go ahead and grab 2 more running backs after this. I think this team that passed on tight end earlier to take George Pickens, probably regretting it. I doubt they expected Brait, Evan Ingram, Taysom Hill, Hayden Hurst, and Logan Thomas all to be off the board, or maybe this team's on auto at this point. And I've said this before, but I really want to reiterate this. It is so damn important, guys. If you're going to go hop in an underdog draft, which you should go hop in an underdog draft, go have some fun with your life. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy with a link in the description or in the comment section. Go deposit $10. They'll match it up to $100. That way you get essentially to try out Underdog Fantasy for free. And then on top of that, you're going to get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you having fun on Underdog? But anyway, if you are going to fire up some of these drafts, I insist, I beg you, please do not join a draft ever if you think that you're going to have to auto at any point. If you think that you're going to have to auto draft a single pick near at the end, it's just not worth getting in. My man, there'll be another draft for you down the line, because if you draft, say, through the first 13 rounds and you auto draft the last 5, you're done. You got no shot. Your roster construction is going to be so messed up. You're just going to be donating money to the league pot. So please, I say this all the time, but do not join one of these drafts. Do not enter in the lobby if you think you're going to have to auto draft, because even if you have a great draft through, say, half of it or through 10 rounds, as soon as you auto the last few and you end up drafting your 4th quarterback, you end up drafting your 4th tight end, you are just done. Let's hope that we have some running back value. Deshaun Watson at pick 192. I mean, dear God, talk about a pick that can win you your fantasy league. Talk about a pick that is a lot of risk, but a lot of upside as well. I personally have been taking him, but the issue is when we go Justin Fields at 129 and Josh Allen in the 3rd, we already have too much invested into the quarterback position where we're just simply behind everyone else with running backs and tight ends. And it sucks that every interesting running back is off the board. J.D. McKissick, Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams, Jerick McKinnon. Dear God, are y'all really making me take Raheem Mostert? That's what we're doing here. Y'all are really making me take this guy. Jared Goff still available as well. Pluto Jack. This is a team that decided to go very wide receiver heavy early on. They take AJ Green. Who do they have at tight end? They have Dalton Schultz at tight end. I feel like if I have Dalton Schultz at tight end, I'm not comfortable drafting Dalton Schultz and then around 18 tight end. Taking Dalton Schultz and then waiting and grabbing a Trey McBride, a Mo Alley Cox in the last round. Personally, I'd be very nervous about that approach. But Baker Mayfield off. Jared Goff about to make it to us. Pick 201, just taunting me. Of course, we cannot take Jared Goff when we have Josh Allen and Justin Fields. But we can look at the pick and we can say, okay, yeah, definitely we made the mistake drafting Justin Fields. Even though we have Darnell Mooney. We got Darnell Mooney, 7 picks behind his ADP. We got Justin Fields, 5 picks behind his ADP. We did get some fine value with the Chicago Bears pass catchers, but still at the same time, probably just didn't make sense. Now, let's look at Raheem Mostert off the board, hopefully to us at pick 201 at the 1709. Okay, so Brevin Jordan goes at 199. Mostert off the board. Let's go Donta Foreman. Let's hope that, actually, I don't want to say that out loud. Let's take Donta Foreman, and if Christian McCaffrey were to go down, all of a sudden we would have access to an elite level ceiling. but afterwards, Brian Edwards goes to the 202. Let's slide this down. Devin Duvernay off. I would be fine with Sony Michel. I think you are going to have Sony Michel and Raheem Mostert battling it out for that second RB job in Miami. The issue with Sony Michel in this range is he simply has no access to running back one upside, given the fact that he is never going to catch passes in Miami, almost no matter what happens. Like, even if you were to have an injury to, say, both Chase Edmonds as well as an injury to Raheem Mostert, you're still not going to end up with Sony Michel having any type of passing down role based on what we've seen through his entire NFL career so far. But hell, at the 208, I would be fine with it. Ooh, we do not want to enter autopilot mode. Let's slide this over. Jared Goff finally off the board at pick 204. I guess it makes sense for Goff to slide a little bit past his ADP when we are the team to draft Swift. We are the team to draft Jameson Williams. We were the team to draft TJ Hawkinson. So we were the team to really probably supposed to take Goff, but it is what it is. And maybe we need to give more credit to Isaiah McKenzie at this pick, or even David Bell. Let's think through this. I wish I was live right now so I could ask for your opinion. At running back, we have Swift, Dobbins, Michael Carter Jr., James Robinson, and Donta Foreman. How likely would Isaiah McKenzie or David Bell actually be to hit our flex spot and to make a difference? We have Diggs, Waddle, Darnell Mooney, Drake London, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Jameson Williams. We waited too long on running back not to take a sixth guy, I think. We waited too long at running back. I mean, we took a running back in round 2. We took a running back in round 5. And then after that, our next guy was pick 153. 153, 177, 201, and 208. I think with that running back core, we are going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to take a sixth one of these guys. Please go to the comment section, though. Let me know if you would have drafted Isaiah McKenzie to pair up with Josh Allen. Of course, if I didn't have Stephon Diggs, we would have done it. But when we have Stephon Diggs, I'm not dying to go ahead and get that stack. But thank you so much for being a part of the vlog, supporting the channel. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I really hope that you got something from it. And if you have not done so already, go down there, sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK, get ready to hop in a draft with us, crush us in the next draft. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they'll match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Take advantage of it. Link in the description. But I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a great day. Hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.